Hello, my name is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to talk to you about returns of hearing aids or any kind of product. Part 2, coming right up. So we talked last week about the overall nature of $14 trillion of B2B or B2C, that means business to consumer, business to business type of transactions. And $642 billion is returned of that. But I want to kind of go deeper into that dive, and then we'll kind of move a little bit into what happens with hearing. So do you know that there's 4 main reasons actually done by Market Watch research? There's 4 top reasons. Number 1 is defective, meaning that you get the product and it doesn't work. I'm going to give you an example. I bought a USB card, and this is something you put in your computer, and when we pulled out the product, the plate over it wouldn't even lock into where the USB was. Someone had mismarked or put together the plate. They put the wrong plate with the wrong type of USB hookup. Went back to the place and said, oh yeah, that's a bad product. So there's a defective type of product. Number 2 issue is the wrong item. That happens when you get the item, but you realize you didn't need it, or you got the wrong size, or the wrong setup, or the wrong connection to that. Thirdly is poor quality. It's a fascinating conversation, because when we were just talking to a patient that bought some hearing aids online, and she was told that these were real hearing aids. And it was a place in China that had just a chop shop that kind of put together something that is not even close for her hearing needs. And we recommended that she return it, just like I'm talking to you today. So when you have a poor quality item, you don't know where you get it, and they don't always tell you where it comes from. And lastly, this is always fascinating because the list has been done in different ways, not just from Market Watch, but from a whole bunch of different industry standards that we actually look at. Excuse me. Number 4 is buyer's remorse followed really closely to price. And you say, wait a second, wouldn't price, as the higher the price is, wouldn't that be a higher amount for the potential returns? And the answer is that isn't even how it works. You see, the more the price is, tends to make people feel like value has potentially been increased. It depends upon how that business is placed and how they've done that situation. Now, when we talk about big box versus online, and we lay these points out, we see that the problem happens is that we get a lot of wrong product ideas, we have defective parts, we have mismatching information, poor quality, you get the wrong kind of quality thing because you're shopping based upon price. You see, the big box and online stores are looking at the analysis of price. So for instance, if you had a $100 item, but you could buy it online for $110, $90 versus the $100, you think, I'm gonna save 10 bucks by going online. And the question is, are you? If you're getting the exact same type of product and you don't need a setup ability, maybe you are getting a great deal off of that, saving 10 bucks. But are you really? And that becomes the problem. You see, the less that you know about your product, the more you have a transactional kind of relationship. Now, we have patients that walk in and want that transactional kind of relationship. They're looking at price only. And I can tell you that the box stores, the big box stores, are always gonna beat a local business on price. And people say, well, if they're gonna beat you on price, then you should just not be in business. Do you know that one of the biggest box stores that have ever existed for hearing is Costco? Costco in the Tulsa market showed up in April of 2016. We have actually grown every single year that they've been around in town. Why is it? It's not because Costco's bad people and not they're doing anything necessarily wrong. Sometimes they're doing things right, but they're going after a different potential clientele. The person that goes into Costco might be looking for, and I go to Costco too, but I'm looking for bulk products that I might want to get. But I'm not always looking for expertise in the same way that happens when you look at a Costco store. When you go to the local place, you're finding more information that's deeper, a deeper dive into what your needs are. And when you do a deeper dive, you're going to reduce the defectiveness, reduce the wrong type of items that you got, the possible poor quality, because you're matching up exact apples and apples comparison. So it becomes less of a transactional nature. And when you get the more complex the product is, like in the type of hearing aids that I wear as well, the more complex the product is, the more difficulties you have in looking at that apples to apples comparison. So it becomes a real big struggle out there for people. Now, there also is, throughout every industry, a fraudulent level of returns. Now, I'm going to give you two stories. Ready? So I'm working at a Sears in college, and I was in grad school at the time. And there was this biggest tint that was always on sale, and we never sold the dumb tint. I mean, we could ever sell it. I could sell every other type of tint in the sporting goods section. And because we were at the back door kind of thing, I always watched those people come out the back door and they were trying to steal things, and I would help the security guard and just kind of stand in the way kind of thing, right? So I remember it's late at night, there's no one in the store, there's a couple people, milling about. It's near the end of the day, and I knew that there was a camera directly on my counter, and I'm just standing behind the counter. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm thinking about, I want to go home. And so this woman comes by and she gets me down this other aisle. So I'm talking to her down this aisle, not even thinking about the aisle that's closest to the camera. And I come back and talk, after she finishes, talk to her, come back, and I look and I realize the big tent, the $200 tent that was just an expensive tent at the time, is gone. And I look down there and there's return section right over there, and they're trying to return the tent they just picked up, not realizing that they were probably on camera. And I call up the people, I'm like, dude, did you see them on camera? He goes, what? I'm like, look. Oh yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with that? He goes, we'll mess around with them a little bit because they're not gonna get any money back out of that. So that's a type of fraudulent return. I'm going to give you an example in the hearing industry. Now, I've been doing this for 30 years. And we always have an issue that you would do with anything else, is that you can return our products, our custom-made products, within the state laws 30 days. But at Hearing Solution Centers, we actually offer a 75-day guarantee period. And this lady comes in near the end of the 75 days. Well, actually, her husband walked in, and she has the hearing aid in a baggie. And she goes, well, I didn't really like it, but we ran over it in a car. And I said, you can't return hearing aids in a baggie. It at least has to be intact for me to get that return. And she causes a stink back and forth, and she tries to take me to the Better Business Bureau on this whole thing. And I finally just decided, fine, I'm going to return your money, but I'm not going to see you ever again. And one of the things that I actually said to the Better Business Bureau is that, listen, guys, you wouldn't take a box with the TV in there and have it broken, and Walmart or any other place would never give your money back in that same way. And that's a type of fraudulent return that happens. It costs industry huge amount of money. And you think, well, that's not that big a deal. See, if I have an online type of product or a big box type of product and I return it, it's no big deal, and no skin off of my back. But every time we return something, it costs, because the manufacturer, when they see high enough return rate, is going to raise the prices of that product. So I'll give you the last little example when we talk about big box versus local related to hearing. So I'm interviewing this friend of mine, and he's talking to me about his big box experience. And so he moves into a big box place, and it's a hearing aid place. And he notices that the person before him had a 40% return rate. That's a huge return rate, and I'll explain why that is such a high return rate in a second. And by his good processes and the way that he knew how to handle patients, he said, man, I got it down to 25%. And I'm looking at him like, okay. And then he asked me near the end, he goes, well, what's your return rate? I said, well, at worst, it's maybe 7. And at best, it's around 4%. He couldn't believe it. I said, because what I do is work every bit of it. It's not that I tell people you can't have a return. We have people that can't wear something that we work with. It's because they have something going on with their ear that we can't take care of. And there are people like that. I'm sorry, but it is a reality of that situation. And so I'm not scared of a return, but I want to do everything I can to make it right. No one wants to get something and they have to return it and not have that ability to hear again. You're not just getting a product, you're getting us as a company. You're getting the ability of our staff. And by the way, it's not just me. And I have 2 other staff member audiologists who know about hearing aids, and we'll talk to one another about how we actually fix that. We'll call up different friends of ours in the audiology realm, maybe 280 members with Audiology Group, and ask them questions and see if I can come up with the right answer. And you know what you do when you have that? You release the stress off the patient, because the patient doesn't want to ask for their money back either. So that's one of the ways that we try to mitigate that type of return process, and we have it so terribly low. Now, some people say they have almost no returns, and that's just a lie. You haven't really checked on it. You haven't tracked everything. And we track everything from top to bottom. We know what's happening. We know what doesn't work and what does work. We know what products and manufacturers do really well for us, and we know what ones that don't work really well for us. And that's a really important process, because you are always working with me. You see, as soon as you come into our office with Hearing Solution Centers and you're saying, hey, I want to work with you, I'm now working underneath you in essence. Because you have a problem, but my job is to make everyone else take care of it, including me, for you, so that we can match it up just like a glove, just like holding hands together, because we want to be able to mesh really well together. And that's how you can return hearing aids, but that's how we mitigate it, by doing the right things for you. So if you like what we talked about and you like where we were going with this, check us out, subscribe in the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much.